football, since that's the numero uno here. And for the NFL, as far as offshore books go, Five Dimes and Bet Online have the best odds for money line bets, and Five Dimes and GT Bets have the best odds for spread and total bets. And on the US side, FanDuel and Sugar House are best for money line and spread odds, and Sugar House and William Hill are best for total odds.
Oh, okay. So for total odds, William Hill's the best, and I wonder because of what kind of sports bears they have there, Yeah, well, they're well known as a public book, and they've kicked a few sharps out of there, and maybe. So if you can bet at William Hill, what you're trying to say is probably you're going to get the best lines there. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so I can continue going here, but before I get into the college football, I just want to preface for our reviews. We look at odds from over 1,400 games over the previous season for all the different sports that we do, in the spread, money line, and total markets, and then hopefully we'll be expanding that this upcoming year. But what we do is we take those odds and stack them up against all the other sports books, and then give them a numerical rating for who has the best odds over the course of the season. So getting into the college football odds here. Again, on the offshore side, we have Five Dimes and Bet Online having the best odds for the money line bets, and then Five Dimes and GT Bets having the best odds for spread and total bets. And then on the US side, we have MGM and BetStars. They're just kind of best all around for your money line, spread, and total odds.
Now, when you say best odds, so the listeners understand, do you mean?
So I'm talking best odds as in you're going to get the cheapest price. So best odds meaning like minus 105 on both sides instead of minus 110 or minus 115.
So the VIG, you're talking about the VIG,
yes,
the juice.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yep. Perfect. No, that's great. That's great to know. Yeah, Five Dimes does have a special. If you register at theoddsbreakers.com/5dimes, you can get reduced juice the day before each game. So that's something that I personally have done before, and it's a great way to obviously take away or put back in your pocket as much money as you absolutely can. So loving that.
And with Five Dimes too, I mean, it's just over the course of a season that actually can add up, if you're getting reduced juice each game. But moving on to basketball here for the NBA, again, we have Five Dimes Bet Online as being best for the money line odds, and then Five Dimes and GT Bets again being the best for the spread and total odds. And on the US based side, we have actually FanDuel and Sugar House as being best for the money line, spread, and total odds.
Okay, FanDuel and Sugar House for the in-house for New Jersey, it looks like.
Yep, and the U.S. side is, it's far more diverse, whereas on the offshore side we have Five Dimes, Bet Online, and GT Bets are kind of, 1, 2, and 3 for most of the sports.
I'm starting to notice that trend right there. It's you keep saying Five Dimes and Bet Online and GT Bets there. It sounds like people should have accounts there if you're going to get want their best bang for your buck. So interesting, man. Keep rolling.
Yeah, and kind of same thing for college basketball with Five Dimes, Bet Online, and GT Bets. Again, 1, 2, 3 for all of your betting types there. And then on the U.S. side, we have MGM for your money line, spread, and total bets.
All right, fantastic. I do remember that when I believe it was FanDuel opened up, they started with lines like minus 120 on both sides and things like that, and people slam them immediately. Slam them. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, with some of the New Jersey books in the first couple months that they just rolled out, some of the lines are just ridiculous. Some of the DraftKings was guilty of that as well, and like you said, FanDuel. And once they started kind of getting that feedback from the public, they're like, okay, yeah, we should probably start offering more competitive lines. And they've since FanDuel's gotten better. DraftKings, the last couple times we measured them, they're still kind of pricey, but hoping to see them get better over time.
You can probably thank the offshore books, whether people do it legally or illegally, whether they're located, that competition helped. Because if you're in New Jersey and you didn't have a choice, you might have paid minus 120 if you really wanted action, even though it would have been a bad investment on either side. If you have more options, what happens? You get slammed and you have to adjust. So possibly some of the offshore books could be thanked for what happened there. Let's move into what books post the odds up first. Like, for example, in football on Sundays, they'll post the college games up for the following Saturday, or even maybe Sunday nights. They'll already have next week's NFL lines up.
Yeah, so on the offshore side, 5Dimes and Bet Online are really good at that, and Bookmaker is also pretty good. So any of those three, I would definitely check first. And then on the U.S. side, definitely not MGM or Caesars. They're usually the last two to post it there. And then DraftKings and FanDuel are relatively quick, and then 888 Sport and Sugar House are also pretty good on the U.S. side.
So Caesars,
New Jersey side.
So MGM and Caesars, they take a while to put that up.
Yeah, I go to collect the data, and it's not even there for me.
Right? Oh man. Well, I guess they try not to cater to the opening lines. I believe a lot. What a lot of books do is they'll have a lot lower limits until they get a feeling for which direction the spread is going. Right? And so,
yeah, and they just might not have the volume per se because it's being measured online. But yeah, they were just over the course of the season. They were the two that consistently. I was like, dang it! I come back here in an hour or two and get the lines.
Right. So okay. So it's like you have to make it back again to do it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to have to you have to figure it out and be looking at those books and going back and forth. So I totally get that. Which books cash out the fastest? Now we know in-house casinos. They can get cash out as soon as you bring them their ticket, pretty much as soon as the game's over. Well, within minutes after the game's over. But I guess I'm talking about betting apps for states and offshore books.
Yeah, so with the states, most of the books in New Jersey, the online books are really quick at getting you a payout. Like PointsBet, 888 Sugar House, you can get it within 24 hours to 5 days at the latest. So you're not there, but there's nobody that's really going to take, a week or 2 weeks to get your money. And then on the offshore side, 5Dimes is usually really good at getting you paid out in a day or two, unless you're doing it bankware, which takes a little bit longer. And then, books like MyBookie and Bet Online and Bookmaker can get you a check in 5 to 7 days. Intertops as well can get you a check in 5 days or so. But if you're betting with an offshore book, I would recommend going to Coinbase and purchasing some Bitcoin and then depositing and withdrawing your money with Bitcoin, because you can avoid the fees and you get paid out in like a day or less than 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Less fees with that. Coinbase also has stopped people from doing some of that. And I know people have complained to me about it. They go to blockchain.info. You can just go from Coinbase to blockchain.info. And then that way, that's a Europe-based blockchain company. And that way you can be secure and not worry about being blocked in case you're worried about any U.S. company like Coinbase to get your payment or to deposit money on offshore books. So talking about that, which books have the lowest fees in itself? I'm talking like banking fees and credit card fees.
Sure. So as far as credit card fees, if you're paying with a credit card, you do not want to bet with Bovada or Bet Online, since they tack on I think it's 5.5% to 6.5% fee, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's just money out of your pocket. But on the reverse side, when you do withdraw your money, Bovada does at least give you one free payout every 90 days with a $100 minimum for checks. 5Dimes is another one that gives you a free payout once a month. But if you're taking a check out at 5Dimes, you got to have a $1,000 minimum. But like I said earlier, if you're using Bitcoin, then MyBookie, Bookmaker, Bet Online, 5Dimes, Bovada, they'll have withdrawal and deposit minimums for Bitcoin set at $50 or lower, which is pretty good. But if you do need to take out a check, then Bookmaker and Intertops, they have like $50 check withdrawal fees, which is really excessive. But if you need to do it, it's there.
Yeah. So what you're trying to say, and what I'm trying to say, is probably best to go with Bitcoin if you're located away from the United States, or if you use offshore books, and that way you're going to keep your fees the lowest. So
Yeah, and on the U.S. side, or the U.S. based books. So if you're in New Jersey or you're in one of the other 7 states that are going to be rolling out mobile sports betting by the end of the year, then you won't have to worry about that if you're betting at a online book in New Jersey or one of those states.
Right, because the apps, they're going to probably treat it just like you were at their location, no fees whatsoever.
Correct.
To join in. Obviously, credit card fee, if you get money from a credit card, there's always a 4% no matter what. But, using straight direct debit and things like that, you're probably not going to have to worry about it. So
yeah, you'll be fine doing that.
Cool. Should I accept, or anybody accept, a bonus that takes a while to roll over from some of these offshore books? They'll be like, yeah, we offer you a 50% sign-up bonus. Now, some have rollover requirements. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for me, it really just depends on a couple of things, namely what time of year it is, what sports and lines I'm betting, and whether or not I'm going to need access to that cash in the next couple of months. If you look at a book that's offering, say, a 50% bonus, like you said, and you deposit $100, then your bankroll is going to be $150. And just using pretty standard terms, we'll say it's like a 5 times rollover with a 6-month rollover period. Then you're going to have to bet $750 to roll over that bonus. And if you're betting 6.5% of that bankroll, you're going to be making $10 bets. You're going to have to make 75 wagers to roll over that money. So if you bet every couple days, it could take you 7.5 months. But if you bet, say, every other day, or you bet more than that $10, then you're going to be able to roll over that bonus in 3 to 5 months and meet the rollover requirements. So like I said, it really just depends. I mean, I personally, I wouldn't take a 7 to 10 times rollover on a bonus like in June, because I don't really bet on MLB games that often, and I'd be forcing myself to place bigger bets than I typically am used to. But if it's in September, where there's football, baseball, hockey, and basketball coming up, then yeah, I would absolutely take a bonus with a higher rollover.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if there's not a 6-month time. A lot of the good books like Bet Online, I don't think they offer you a certain amount of time that you have to do it. You can actually have longer than that. So if you start in July, you don't have to worry about it expiring. But definitely read the terms and conditions out there.
Always read the terms and conditions. Yes,
because and that's what your whole site's all about. The betting buck is where to go and what to expect. So that's pretty awesome. Which sports books ban the sharpest sports bettors? And I know obviously a few of them, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't know if I disclaim, but I'm just a hobby bettor. I'm not a sharp bettor by any means. But from what I've heard and from what I've seen online is I've seen a couple people get banned or not paid out at Bovada and Bet DSI, which are some of the more prominent offshore ones. And then on the U.S. side, like you said earlier, William Hill for sure. I've read a ton of stories and talked to a ton of people that have gotten banned or ridiculously low limits betting at William Hill.
Yeah, and I don't know why they're really ruining their reputation there, and where it's becoming more and more legal. They're just going to have to rely on more walk-on traffic if this case is going to keep happening with them. So I'm really curious to see where they go, because they definitely ban the sharpest bettors out there. There's a couple online sites that have done it, but for the most part, more and more competition is coming up, so they're going to need to cater to pretty much everybody. A lot of what they're doing now is also just limiting the sharper bettors, saying you can't bet $500,000. You have to keep it a little bit lower than that, 100 to 300 type thing as well. So you're going to be seeing a little bit more than that. And that leads me into my next question. Do you see this banning trend continue for the future?
So yes and no. There's actually a great article I read last week from The Ringer called "The Rise and Fall of Professional Sports Betting." And in this article, the journalist who wrote it, David Hill, goes around New Jersey with this prominent sports bettor who goes by the nickname of Spanky. And Spanky pretty much describes how he's been banned at a ton of places in Nevada and then now New Jersey. And what he does is he has the journalist go around for him and place bets at books, trying to play the lines and get the right lines at the right price. And the journalist David, he gets his limits reduced pretty quickly in a couple bets, and Spanky tells him, if you would have stayed, we would have got kicked out in the next bet or two. And what I gathered from that story and that whole article was just that one, sharper sports bettors have definitely felt the wrath of sports books banning bettors or reducing their limits. There's no denying that for both U.S. based books and offshore books. However, if sports betting continues to expand across the U.S. with good legislation, and I think this trend should slow down. And what I mean by good legislation is low to no barriers to entry for sports books, lower to reasonable tax rates, and access to mobile betting. When there are enough sports books competing in a state, they have to differentiate themselves in some way. And you can kind of see this with PointsBet right now in New Jersey. They just recently announced that they're going to honor a minimum bet to win amount of $10,000